The path led through the serene forest, its tranquility a balm to the soul and a guide to reflection. The Buddha walked ahead with measured steps, his presence radiant, his demeanor calm like still waters under the moonlit sky. I followed closely, my heart heavy with conflict, my mind entangled in resentment, seeking answers from his infinite wisdom. Sensing my turmoil, the Buddha turned to me, his gaze gentle, his eyes seeing through the veil of my distress. "Why does your heart carry such burden?" he asked, his voice calm yet filled with curiosity and compassion. I hesitated, the words caught in my throat, the admission of my discord too bitter to taste, too heavy to share. "It is my brother," I finally confessed. "He disregards my efforts, scorns my actions, and withholds the harmony I seek." The Buddha listened silently, his expression unchanged, his patience infinite, his wisdom waiting like the dawn after the darkest night. "Tell me," he began, "can two musicians create harmony when one insists on dominating the melody with no regard for the other?" His question lingered in the air, its simplicity profound, its truth piercing, its implications weaving through the fabric of my thoughts. "No, Master," I replied, my voice soft, my realization dawning like the first light of day across a shadowed valley. "Then understand," the Buddha said, "acceptance is not about yielding, but about embracing the balance that allows harmony to flourish." I nodded, his words like drops of water nourishing the parched soil of my mind, growing seeds of understanding within me. "But Master," I ventured, "what if my acceptance is not reciprocated? What if harmony remains elusive despite my efforts?" The Buddha regarded me kindly, his countenance as steady as the mountains, his insight as deep as the ocean depths. "Do you know the story of the sparrow who built her nest on a tree battered by the storm?" he asked. I shook my head, eager for his teaching, eager for his words to illuminate the shadows of my inner conflict. "The sparrow," he began, "did not curse the storm nor abandon her nest, but instead reinforced it with care and patience." His parable painted vivid pictures in my mind, its lesson clear yet enigmatic, its wisdom both ancient and immediate. "The tree," he continued, "did not demand the sparrow leave nor insist the storm relent, but simply stood firm, resilient, and steady." He paused, allowing his words to sink in, allowing me to see myself as both the sparrow and the tree in my dilemma. "Acceptance," the Buddha said, "is the foundation upon which resilience is built and upon which harmony may one day rest." "But how will I know," I asked, "if my acceptance has truly fostered harmony or merely allowed resentment to linger?" The Buddha smiled, his patience eternal, his wisdom flowing, his teachings as gentle as the first rain of spring. "Do you measure the growth of a tree each day," he asked, "or do you trust it to grow with time?" I lowered my gaze, his analogy clear, his insight profound, his teachings urging me to trust the process rather than rush it. "Trust," he said, "is the companion of acceptance. Together, they nurture the soil of relationships, even when storms seem unrelenting." His wisdom resonated within me, its depth stirring my spirit, its simplicity guiding me like stars across an otherwise cloudy night. "And if I fail, Master?" I asked hesitantly. "What if my efforts falter, and my acceptance collapses under the weight of my despair?" The Buddha's gaze softened further, his presence a comfort, his insight a beacon, his teachings both timeless and timely. "Failures," he said, "are the steps upon the path to growth. Learn from them, and let them strengthen your resolve." His answer was a balm to my fears, a light to my doubts, his wisdom reminding me that despair is not defeat. "Acceptance," he continued, "is not a single act but a practice, a continuous cultivation like the tending of a garden." "But Master, how do we balance awareness of impermanence with the desires and attachments that bind us?" he asked earnestly. The Buddha's gaze rested upon him, and his reply carried the warmth of patience and understanding. Tend to it daily, and in time, you may find your heart's harmony. I bowed to the Buddha, his teachings a gift, his wisdom a guide, his presence a source of serenity and strength. With his words echoing within me, I resolved to approach my brother with patience, to sow the seeds of acceptance anew. That evening, I sat with my brother, my expectations set aside, my heart open, my mind focused on understanding and empathy. As the Buddha taught, acceptance was my guide, and though harmony did not bloom immediately, its seeds began to take root. In the days that followed, I practiced acceptance, my actions deliberate, my intentions clear, my heart unwavering in its commitment. Through patience and perseverance, I began to see the bridges acceptance could build, the paths it could illuminate, the peace it could nurture. The Buddha's teachings remained my compass, their truth eternal, their wisdom infinite, their power transforming my relationships and my understanding of harmony. Another day dawned in Jetavana, its golden rays piercing the canopy, bathing the monastery in light and serene tranquility. Another day brought seekers from distant lands, their hearts heavy with questions, their minds restless with doubts, yearning for wisdom. Another day found the Buddha seated under the banyan tree, his presence radiant, his teachings awaited with silent anticipation. Among the seekers was a couple, their faces worn by discord, their voices weighed with frustration, their bond fraught with conflict. The husband spoke first, his words sharp like arrows, accusing his wife of defiance, blaming her for their disharmony. The wife followed, her voice trembling, her tears flowing, lamenting his harshness, pleading for compassion, yearning for understanding. The Buddha listened intently, his gaze calm, his patience infinite, his wisdom waiting to illuminate the path of their hearts. Do you see, he began, how two stones cannot smooth their edges unless they come into contact and accept one another? His analogy lingered in the air, its simplicity profound, its truth piercing through the layers of their hardened hearts. Acceptance, the Buddha continued, is the space between two hearts where understanding flourishes and discord fades like shadows in light. The husband and wife lowered their heads, their silence heavy, their pride bruised, yet their minds open to his wisdom. Tell me, the Buddha asked, when two streams flow toward one another, do they clash or do they merge into unity? His question stirred their minds, its depth unraveling the knots of their conflict, its simplicity guiding them toward introspection. They merge, Master, the wife answered softly, her realization dawning like the first light of day over a shadowed valley. And why, the Buddha asked, do they merge rather than clash? What allows their union to flow freely and without resistance? The husband hesitated, his voice caught in his throat, his pride reluctant, yet his curiosity urging him to respond. Because they yield, he finally said, his words hesitant, his pride faltering, his understanding beginning to bloom like spring flowers. The Buddha smiled, his expression steady, his teachings flowing, his wisdom nurturing their hearts like a gentle rain on dry soil. Yielding, he said, is not defeat, it is the pitcher that pours love into the cup of relationships, replenishing the soul. His analogy painted images in their minds, its depth stirring their spirits, its simplicity guiding their thoughts toward resolution. Acceptance, the Buddha continued, is not submission, it is the bridge that spans the chasm between hearts, uniting them in harmony. The couple listened intently, their silence reverent, their conflict beginning to dissolve, their minds opening to his teachings. Tell me, the Buddha said, can love thrive when one commands and the other submits? Or does it wither like neglected roots? Neglected roots, the wife said softly, her voice trembling, her understanding dawning. her heart open to the wisdom he offered. His disciples bowed deeply, their minds already focused on the teachings they hoped to receive from their revered guide. The Buddha sat, his robes settling gracefully around him, his gaze sweeping over the gathered disciples with infinite compassion. His teachings resonated within them, his wisdom penetrating their doubts, his insight guiding their spirits toward harmony and understanding. "But Master," the wife asked hesitantly, "what if acceptance is met with rejection? What if harmony remains elusive despite my efforts?" The Buddha regarded her kindly, his gaze steady, his patience infinite, his teachings flowing like the river meeting the sea. "Do you measure the tides each day," he asked, "or do you trust them to ebb and flow in their time?" His analogy brought clarity to her mind, its depth stirring her spirit, its simplicity guiding her thoughts toward resolution. "Trust," he said, "is the companion of acceptance. Together, they nurture the soil of relationships, even when storms seem relentless." His wisdom resonated within her, its depth stirring her spirit, its simplicity guiding her thoughts toward harmony and understanding. The husband listened, his silence reverent, his conflict dissolving, his heart opening to the Buddha's teachings like petals beneath the sun. "And if we fail, Master?" the husband asked, his voice hesitant, his pride faltering, his fears urging him to seek guidance. The Buddha's gaze softened, his presence a comfort, his insight a beacon, his teachings both timeless and timely. "Failures," he said, "are the steps upon the path to growth. Learn from them, and let them strengthen your resolve." His answer was a balm to their fears, a light to their doubts, his wisdom reminding them that despair is not defeat. "Acceptance," the Buddha continued, "is not a single act but a practice, a continuous cultivation like the tending of a garden." His analogy painted images of care and patience, of nurturing and perseverance, of relationships blossoming like flowers under the gardener's watchful eye. "Begin," he said, "with one seed of acceptance. Tend to it daily, and in time, you may find your heart's harmony." The couple bowed to the Buddha, his teachings a gift, his wisdom a guide, his presence a source of serenity and strength. With his words echoing within them, they resolved to approach each other with patience, to sow the seeds of acceptance anew. That evening, they sat together, their expectations set aside, their hearts open, their minds focused on understanding and empathy. As the Buddha taught, acceptance was their guide, and though harmony did not bloom immediately, its seeds began to take root. In the days that followed, they practiced acceptance, their actions deliberate, their intentions clear, their hearts unwavering in their commitment. Through patience and perseverance, they began to see the bridges acceptance could build, the paths it could illuminate, the peace it could nurture. The Buddha's teachings remained their compass, their truth eternal, their wisdom infinite, their power transforming their bond and their understanding of harmony. Another day arrived in the forest, its gentle breezes carrying the fragrance of blossoms and the promise of renewal. Another day found the Buddha seated by the riverbank, his serenity unwavering, his teachings awaited by seekers from near and far. Another day brought a merchant to the Buddha, his expression heavy with sorrow, his heart burdened by the weight of estrangement. The merchant bowed low, his voice trembling, his words spilling forth like a river bursting its banks, overflowing with regret and pain. "Master," he began, "my son has brought shame to my house. His actions reckless, his behavior unworthy of his lineage." The Buddha regarded him patiently, his gaze steady, his insight ready to pierce through the anguish clouding the merchant's heart. "And tell me," the Buddha asked, "when a tree's fruit is bitter, do you abandon it, or do you nurture its roots?" The merchant hesitated, his mind wrestling with the analogy, its simplicity profound, its implications unraveling the knots of his despair. "I nurture it," the merchant admitted, his voice soft, his understanding dawning like the first light of day over darkened lands. Then why, the Buddha asked, have you cast away the tree of your lineage, denying its roots the nourishment of your compassion? His question lingered in the air, its truth piercing, its depth stirring the merchant's spirit like ripples across still water. Master, the merchant said, his actions have wounded me deeply. How can I extend compassion when his deeds have sown such bitterness? The Buddha's gaze softened, his expression steady, his wisdom flowing like the river meeting the sea, infinite and patient. Tell me, he said, can bitterness endure in the light of compassion, or does it dissolve like shadows in the dawn? Compassion, the Buddha continued, is not condoning wrongs but creating the space for redemption, the fertile soil for transformation to take root. The merchant listened intently, his silence heavy, his pride bruised, yet his heart opening to the Buddha's teachings like petals to sunlight. And if he rejects my compassion, the merchant asked hesitantly, what if my efforts to reconcile are met with scorn? The Buddha regarded him kindly, his gaze steady, his patience infinite, his teachings flowing like a gentle rain upon parched lands. Do you measure the growth of a seedling each day, he asked, or do you trust it to grow in time? His analogy brought clarity to the merchant's mind, its depth stirring his spirit, its simplicity guiding his thoughts toward reconciliation. Trust, the Buddha said, is the companion of compassion. Together, they nurture the soil of relationships. Even when redemption seems distant, the merchant lowered his gaze, his pride faltering, his understanding blooming like blossoms under the gardener's watchful care. And if I fail, Master? The merchant asked, his voice hesitant, his doubts urging him to seek guidance for his fears. The Buddha's gaze softened further, his presence a comfort, his insight a beacon, his teachings both timeless and timely. Failures, he said, are the steps upon the path to growth. Learn from them, and let them strengthen your resolve. His answer was a balm to the merchant's fears, a light to his doubts, his wisdom reminding him that despair is not defeat. Compassion, the Buddha continued, is not a single act but a practice, a continuous cultivation like the tending of a garden. His analogy painted images of care and patience, of nurturing and perseverance, of relationships blossoming like flowers under the gardener's watchful eye. Begin, he said, with one seed of compassion. Tend to it daily, and in time, you may find your heart's harmony. The merchant bowed to the Buddha, his teachings a gift, his wisdom a guide, his presence a source of serenity and strength. With his words echoing within him, the merchant resolved to approach his son with patience, to sow the seeds of compassion anew. That evening, he sought his son, his expectations set aside, his heart open, his mind focused on understanding and empathy. As the Buddha taught, compassion was his guide, and though reconciliation did not bloom immediately, its seeds began to take root. In the days that followed, the merchant practiced compassion, his actions deliberate, his intentions clear, his heart unwavering in his commitment. Through patience and perseverance, he began to see the bridges compassion could build, the paths it could illuminate, the peace it could nurture. The Buddha's teachings remained his compass, their truth eternal, their wisdom infinite, their power transforming his relationship and his understanding of harmony. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.